Well, what do you know? Hey there, folks. John Duffin here with Duffin Media and Duffin Coaching. I could not be happier to be here today. Couldn't be more damn grateful. I am truly appreciative of everyone making the time today. And look, folks, if you're joining me on Facebook, welcome. If you're joining me on LinkedIn, welcome. If you are joining me on YouTube, double welcome for you. So what's this all about, huh? So why am I disrupting your Tuesday? Well, gee, I don't know. I do know. The fact of the matter is I've created and I've gotten the chance to do what I am calling a communications blitz. Optimizing your communications by leveraging your voice. It's what I get to do. And I'm always happy to share, right? So every day for the next several days, I'm actually thinking of, I called it a 5-day blitz. I'm actually thinking of going all through next week too. That's not a warning. That's an opportunity. So what are we going to do here? Every day at the 12 noon hour, and it won't be an hour, maybe 30 minutes in regards to 3 hacks, tips, techniques to help you better communicate, to get things done, to engage an audience, to engage a client, to improve your results, increase your sales, improve your relationships. That's what this is all about. Nothing more, but it's plenty in regards to why it's so important. And the fact of the matter is, with social media, with sales presentations, with everything in regards to what's in play, it's really important in my eyes to make 100% certain that we are speaking on point, that you are being understood. Your intended message is being understood. Hey, every time I do this, I start with a question. So for me, the question is this. I want to be able to do the following, which is, here's your question. Give it a thought for a moment. The question is this. Ask yourself, have you ever been in a conversation, a presentation, a meeting, an important conversation, something that mattered to you, where you felt like you were speaking really clearly, you felt as if everything was going well, but the reaction, the feedback had nothing to do with that. There was this sense of disconnect. You weren't getting the intended reaction. Has it ever happened to you? Think about it for a second. Well, it certainly happened to me, and I hope it never happens to you, but it's happened to me. Try as we might, you want to accomplish so much. I come from the sales realm. I've broadcast advertising sales for over 25 years. I coach clients. Now I consult clients. I'm not telling you that to impress you. It's simply, by the way, it impresses me. But what I was going to say is why it matters is I've realized over time there are really easy fixes to that. I didn't know that then. When it happened to me in an important meeting and I got a very adverse reaction, I was absolutely horrified. And it stopped all of the momentum, not just for that meeting, but for, I think, all future meetings for the rest of that day. Doubted myself, second-guessed myself. Folks, drop in the comments. I will see a number of these comments, but because we're on multiple platforms, I don't know that I see everyone's comment. If I don't respond to you, I promise you I will respond as soon as this coaching session is over. So drop a note in the comments. Has this ever happened to you? And that's okay, because as I said, if it hasn't, great, but you're not alone. So the whole purpose and point of today is to make certain, Kathy Lee, you're having internet issues. I'm sorry, but I'm glad you're communicating. I appreciate that. But welcome nonetheless, and I hope that gets resolved. So here's the deal. Today, we're going to touch on three things, three bite-sized tips that hopefully optimize your communications that you can walk away from in a matter of minutes and be in a better place to continue your day. Welcome back, Kat. Continue your day and make certain that you're getting the results that you need, okay? There's not going to be a ton of slides. You don't have to write it unless you want to take notes. Great. But it's not going to be a heavy material day. But here's where we are, right? So today, we're going to focus on clarity. And you're going to be like, oh my God, everyone wants to talk about clarity. You know why? Because it's still an issue. So one of the things that I want to get at, I'll share my own experiences. And then if you've got anything to share, drop them in comments. But I want to focus on clarity today. Listen, I'm going to promise you, there is so much data available. Where I'm going in terms of what we're coaching, it has very little to do with adding more content. You've got the content. You've got the story. You've got materials, YouTube, Google, your company, your talent around you. You don't need me to tell you what to say. My whole job is to make certain that when you say it, it's credible, believable, and people are engaged. Okay, so that's the whole thing. Hey, here's your first tip. We went a few minutes. I try to get these tips out a little bit faster, but we went a few minutes. Here's your first tip. Here you go, right? Talk to people. Don't talk at people. Okay? Always talk to people. Don't talk at them. What do I mean? I'm going to give you a couple of examples. All right. So here's the deal. My tip. So I call it, it's focus, not hocus pocus. That's not me as a child, by the way. I wasn't much of a magician. But here's what I would say in regards to the focus part. Let me give you an example of what took place. Allie, I see you and I thank you. The fact of the matter is, here's the first example. I remember I worked for a broadcast company, a digital company, Univision Communications. If anyone is on the line or watching the webinar from Univision, shout out. It was 12 and a half great years. And I loved every bit of it. When we presented to clients, often the presentations were technical. What do I mean? We would be bringing in reams of data, research, qualitative information, numerical, statistical data. Here's the problem, and I'll give you as it related to me. Because you were trying to keep up, because you were trying to navigate sales and manage people, I would be getting the material or prepping the material when I first started at Univision late. Meaning I glance at it and then head to the client meeting and then stand and deliver the presentation. Here's the problem, folks. Tell me if you can relate. You're giving a presentation and you're simply talking at people with your reams of data. We used to do this with our research. Statistic upon statistic upon statistic upon statistic, bludgeon people. I've done that. Here's what happened to me in real life. Major advertising agency in Texas. I won't name their name, but they are big. They have their own building. It's all glass. Beautiful, right? I show up. It's late in the afternoon. I'm coming in. I'm giving the Philadelphia presentation. So I come in, group of people around a big conference room table, but it wasn't that big. So I could see everybody and they could see me, and we're speaking, and I'm noticing one of the people are nodding off. And I don't mean kinda, I mean snoozing in front of me. I am horrified and I'm embarrassed. And then I start to get angry, and then everything goes sideways. I'm just rattling off data. I think the one and only question, I'll get to the questions part shortly, that I think I asked is, does anybody have any questions? By the way, pro tip, don't ask that question. There's way better ones to ask. But rattling off all this, I am literally speaking to the sky. I'm speaking to the Dallas, Texas skyline. I am rattling off stuff, and I'm talking to technically no one, and someone is literally falling asleep, and I don't know what to do. What do? I keep talking. Race through the material so it'll end, run to the car, and point my fingers at the client. Here's a solution, right? Thank God, what I learned. It wasn't the client's fault. It wasn't the client's issue. Tip number 2, it only matters if it matters to them. How do you make it matter to them? Tip number 3, talk to people. Don't talk at people. When I get nervous, I often don't want to focus on an individual. I get that sense of discomfort. Here's what I learned. Here's your magic. Anytime I speak to someone, the science tells me my body tends to calm down. So when you are presenting at a meeting with a group, always make certain you're focusing on someone. You do not have to focus on the entire room simultaneously. No one's expecting you to do that. But look at them. Speak to them. Speak directly to them. You wouldn't rattle off 50 pages of qualitative research data to somebody you were actually talking to. You just wouldn't do it. You'd stop yourself. You'd be gauging their facial reactions, their body language. Let me give you a better example. Here's how it's the solve. The technique that I'm saying I invented, but don't know about that. But what I will say is called water the plants. So literally, there's 2 ways to do this. Number 1, if there are people at the meeting, in the conversation, I speak to audiences in the audiences. If there are people that you know, focus on them to start. They're going to instantly make you more comfortable. They'll make you feel better. You know them. They're probably going to nod along to you, nod along with you, smile a little bit, let you know that things are okay. So the plants, I'm saying, if you know people, find them and speak directly to them. What that does, it bolsters your confidence. It calms down the physiology and your mind so that now you can start to scan the room and focus on other people. It really, really helps when you are speaking to an individual. Remember, any conversation is exactly that, a conversation. A meeting is a series of small conversations. These are not speeches or State of the Union addresses. You're always talking to somebody. And to me, that's the part that makes it the most important. The focus, it benefits mostly you, so that you can read the room, those disconnects. People don't tend to fall asleep if you're focusing on them. Now, I don't mean stare them down, and I don't mean freak them out, but I mean just have a conversation, right? Hey, I'm looking at the comments right now. Allie Connor, I love this. You have a 2.5-hour Zoom masterclass that you thought you nailed. I'm so sorry you didn't get that feedback. It's hard, especially when you prepare. Everybody's intentions are always great. But the rough part is, as I said, it's the sense of when you communicate and you come back at the end of something, it's really hard. So I'm going to touch on a good way to get clarity on Zoom in a moment. Everything I addressed is typically a live situation. What are the plans? Find the right people. Speak to them first. Hey, if you don't have people at the meeting that you know, this happens, and you were speaking to a collective group of people. That has happened to me a lot. Building business presentations, finding new business, finding different audiences. It does happen. use the common sense that you have, the gift of intuition, and find the friendly people. They're always so easily known. The ones with the smiles on their faces, the ones that are receptive, find them and focus on them in the beginning. They will give you the momentum. They will give you the momentum. I was at a conference this past weekend in Columbus, Ohio. Allie Connor was one of those people that was at the conference. Allie and her husband, Stephen, literally were there. And I knew within about, when I walked into a room, it was literally the beginning of the registration part, right? I knew it within, about a minute. No, that's a lie. I knew in about 10 seconds, these were people that were going to be receptive to me. Big smiles on their faces. I felt it. I warm up and calm down immediately. I headed to that conference alone. Question. Anyone who's on the line right now, I keep saying on the line, that makes me sound 100 years old. Anybody who's on the live stream right now, have you ever gone to a conference before by yourself? Didn't know anybody? It's okay. It is not it's not a mandate, but the fact of the matter is, look, if you get the privilege of doing so, Kathy Lee, thank you for that. Yep, me too. Intuitively, you'll find friendly faces. You'll find friendly dispositions. Thank God Stephen and Allie were there early. There were a couple of other way cool people. Chris and Craig were at that same conference. Right away, I felt better. I could converse and I can focus better. Folks, when you're in business, this is the deal. We're going to go back to the central theme today. What does clarity mean in terms of how you say something? Speak to someone. Don't speak at someone. Always speak to someone. Don't speak at someone. This works regardless of the size of the room, the size of the opportunity, even if it's a pressure-packed big meeting, if it is a high, intense, buttoned-up business meeting, it works. Have a conversation, okay? There you go. I don't want to overstate the obvious there, right? Meanwhile, I go to tip number 2. Technically, now, by the way, I hope you realize we've thrown about 4 tips in so far, but my math is typically good, but I don't mind being generous right away, you know? But the fact is, here's what I'm calling technically tip number 2. Tell me a story. Who can identify a meeting, a conversation you've ever had with somebody who's a great storyteller? You've been there and you listen to somebody and you hear the story and you're like, oh my God, that person is amazing. I can give you a ton of examples of the good fortune that I've had that chance to experience it. It absolutely happened this past weekend, or a week ago in Ohio. It was the Lewis Howes Summit of Greatness. If by any chance Lewis Howes is anywhere on this webinar, shout out to you and anyone from the Greatness team. The storytelling was magnificent. Now, you want to sound clear, you want to sound true, you want to sound authentic, you want people to fully understand. You tell them a story that matters to them. How? Do your homework. Talk to people. I'll give it, remember I told you about the story that I was trying to tell at the agency in Texas, and the person sleeping right in front of me thought nothing of it. And again, I'm the one that has the hate to that person as if it was her issue. Mantra number 2 that I said before, it only matters if it matters to them. When you tell a story, it typically is based upon some sort of benefit, happy ending to them. Bad stories have nothing to do with them. They have everything to do with you. When I was early in my broadcast sales career, I felt it was so important to impress you. I had all sorts of doubts as to my own abilities, but that's another psychological conversation. I'll save that for my therapist. But my confidence wasn't exactly at a peak. So I felt like if I would just bludgeon you with those things, and I talked about the bludgeoning you with data, but that frenetic sort of, and this is it, and I'll give you this, and I'll give you that. When you want to be clear, when you want this to be right, the fact of the matter is the storytelling becomes critical. How do you tell a story that matters to them? Again, do your homework. Here's a very clear example. I'm grateful to say, here's a good example, right? I get this chance to speak to audiences, and I'm really appreciative of this. I just interviewed these two beautiful people, Josh Buchter and Bethany Williams, who happen to be the co-partners of the Real Producers, Philadelphia and Bucks County. What is that? They host a series of events. They do a million other things too, but they host a series of events. I spoke on a stage for a couple of their events, of which I'm wildly grateful. When you are telling someone a story, it is so helpful if you know some of the details of what actually resonates. How do you do it, right? How? Talk to the people before. Stories, here's your moral. Stories do not need to be surprises. You do not need to come in with a complete new script that no one has ever heard before. In fact, the best stories involve the other people and they like it. There is a book that I've now grown to love called Build a Story Brand by Donald Miller. Here's the terminology. Folks, when you are presenting a story, speaking, right? The best way to do it is simply this. Number one, know the story. Know the story, know why it matters. Your data, your capabilities. I learned that the hard way. And when I turned that corner, everything changed for me. Hey, Gene, thank you. Everything changed for me. I could say things as basic as, I don't know if there was a question on the data, but I'll come back to you. And nobody minded, right? Nobody minded. My pace slows down when I'm specifically speaking to people and telling a story, and it always benefits the other people. Have conversations with the person that's bringing you to the situation. Have a conversation. Do the basic homework, the Google, the prep, the white papers, whatever you're finding, the data, the website, but really speak to the people that you're going to present to. What matters to you? I saw that. Prove that you've done some homework. And I promise you, the organizers, the clients, whoever will so appreciate that and help you. How do they help you? They stay engaged better. They listen to you. And so that tip of telling a story, one of the best storytellers I've ever seen, and I've seen some great ones, her name is Lisa McCarthy, has just published a book, but I knew Lisa McCarthy from Univision Communications, and I never saw a better storyteller. Never. It always felt compelling. It always felt like she was speaking directly to me. I remember being in a company presentation. There was probably 500 people, at least, in the room. I was mesmerized. I'm watching, and everyone. And it was the same sort of a presentation that I talked about with all that reams of data. What was the difference? She spoke to me. How do you speak to somebody? Make it resonate a little bit toward the people that you're speaking with. Do your homework. Ask before. Go to, literally, the day before. Oh my God, this came up 50 times. But even up to the day of the presentation that I gave, I was the host and MC for the event. I had 10 minutes on stage. I was at the organizers. I was with them that day early. Hey, is this working okay for you? Is there anything I want to head in this direction? I'm going to name these names. Is it okay? And honest to God, they're like, yeah, great, go. It gave me the confidence that I could tell an ingratiating story. Hey, Gene, I'm looking at your comment right now, which is really cool. Mingle in the audience, talk with the organizers. God almighty, it sounds so simple, right? It's simple and one of the most effective things you can do, because you know what really takes the clarity off the equation when you're speaking, when it has nothing to do with them, right? You might be really clear about the data that you're presenting, but if it doesn't matter to them, it's going to ring hollow and false and unclear, right? So the way to make it clear, and really it's not to slam another bullet point onto your PowerPoint slide. It's simply to make sure that you are being heard, and more importantly, your intended message is being understood. Allie, I'm looking at your comment about Gary Vee. I got you, right? You can repeat the same story, a message over and over and over. You're connecting with different audiences and you are relating to them without patronizing them. Really, really important. Don't patronize people. Now, I talk about tip number 3, the all-in part, right? 100% all in. Presentations, meetings, whether it is Zoom, whether it is in person, whether it is on the phone, whatever. The fact is, what is all in? You want to be clear. You want to sound clear. You want to be taken seriously. Conversations are dialogues, right? And so are these presentations. They're dialogues. Remember I said earlier, put a bookmark in the part about, does anybody have any questions? I'm sorry for laughing, but when anybody asks that in the midst of a lot of data, I find that so off-putting. Why? It requires no effort on that person's part. It dumps the burden on the listener, the audience, the client. Do you have any questions? And about what? Secondly, you're assuming they care. So I don't have questions on something that doesn't matter to me. And if I'm not finding you credible, believable, engaging, I'm not going to waste my breath, right? I know it sounds cynical and jaded there, but I mean, hell, that's just a thought. So how do you go all in? Again, it's not your data. It's not your bullet points. It's the ability to understand and position yourself as if you really do understand. One of the things in the course that I've created and when I'm coaching clients, I talk about, I call it the game day physiology, right? And it's so easy to get in a relaxed, confident physical state. Pull your shoulders back a little bit, even better, pull them up a little bit, right? Expand your chest a little bit. It allows the airflow to go through your lungs, your vocal cords, your vocal folds. What does it do? It makes you sound more confident and at ease. How do you get more confident and at ease? Let your physicality work for you. Then you have a better chance of being a little more all in as you're speaking. Somebody asks a question, you don't know the answer. So what? All right. It's one of those things where it's like, big deal. I'm going to name check somebody, a very dear friend of mine and a crazy talented real estate agent in Philadelphia for Serhant Properties, Michael Prince. And I watched him at an open house that he was covering. He invited me to be there sometime back. And I'll never forget the response when they asked the potential clients asked a question about something or other and about the home, right? And he's like, well, I don't know the answer to that, but I'll find out and I'll be back to you later this evening. Here was what do you think their response was? Do you think they left? Do you think they were upset? Do you think they thought less of him? Coming from Kathy Lee, that's a great question. Let's find the answer. How empowering is that? Well, here's the answer. I love that, by the way. I love that comment. Here's the answer. They were great. They were great. Now, by the way, the bigger problem was me, Michael, the building couldn't create an extra bathroom, which they wanted. So they didn't buy the house anyway. But that's another issue for another time. But the conversation continued. And folks, that's really the overall tip with quality and optimizing your communications is you want You want the communication to continue. The communication, that conversation, you want the back and forth. You want questions that actually matter. If you don't know them, tell them and get the answer. But don't change your demeanor. Don't sound tense. You don't have to do that. Again, the mantra, folks, talk to people. Don't talk at them. Here's what also happens. It's not just your physiology, but your whole demeanor changes. There's an ease that came from the way that I speak. I didn't have that. I was more frenetic when I spoke. Like the energy would almost be too charged up, right? And that can put people off too. Whoa, that's a lot. If you experienced me at my earlier meetings, I apologize in advance. But what I've come to learn and what I come to share is this. You want to sound clear? Be clear. Here's your quick 3-step recap for today, folks. Like I said, I'm wildly grateful that we got to do this. I promised I would make these a half hour, and I feel pretty damn confident that we're going to make it go. Real quick reminders, the clarity. Talk to people. Don't talk at people. That sense of focus. Water the plants. Find the people that will help you in the beginning. Talk to them in the beginning to build your confidence, right? Tell a story that matters to the individual. It only matters if it matters to them, not to you. And then the all-in conversations, dialogue, back and forth. You want it because it allows you to sound clear. Control is a tough word, but if you want to be in control of a conversation, be in control of yourself. Don't worry about controlling them. Control yourself first. So there you go, man. Hey, Gene, thank you for the kind words. Folks, those are my 3 tips for today. All right. If anyone, so on those 3 tips, let me prove my own worth here. I was about to say, does anybody have any other questions? And I would have started laughing out loud. However, I'm going to give you, here's your bonus tip for the day, right? You want to find me in regards to the opportunity. I make it really easy, right? You see that QR code? Oh my God. Zoran Pipersik, who I love to death. One of my rock star heroes. Love it. And Ali, I am so damn grateful to you. Find me easily. I mean it. You see that handy dandy QR code? I'm right there. Find me. We could book a discovery call. I can help you with a specific situation. How do you find me? You know how to find me, Kathy Lee. That's right. JD@DuffinMedia.com, or hit the QR code to make it really easy on yourself. I don't want to give you extra to-dos on a Tuesday, right? Hey, here's your last bit of good news. We're coming back tomorrow. I hope that's good news to you. I hope. It is to me. 3 more tips, 3 more stories, 3 more solutions. Tell your friends, tell your family. Most importantly, I hope you come back. Joey Plishka, God love you, buddy. Thank you for that. I thank you all from the bottom of my heart. I want you to get back and enjoy your day. If you're on the East Coast in Philadelphia, you got a killer, beautiful day. Go get it and go have some fun. Thank you, Gene. Folks, have a fantastic day. You know where to find me, and I will see you tomorrow. Be well. Talk soon, all. Bye-bye. See you. Yeah.